Hi, and welcome to the first episode of our Copy Talks series. I'm your host for today, Wai Leong, Business Development Manager APAC for Red Hat Middleware portfolio. Today we'll be talking about the 5 ideas for developer to succeed in the age of digital disruptions, and we will end the session with poll and Q&A. 20 lucky participants will get to win coffee vouchers, and one super lucky participant will get a special prize. With me, I have Paul, the DevOps disruptor, Whiten. Welcome, Paul. Paul, why DevOps disruptor?
Thanks, Wai Leong. By way of introduction, I'm the DevOps Business Development Manager for APAC at Red Hat. But DevOps Disruptor sounds so much more fun. After all, life is much better when you have a supervillain nickname. Disruptor, because I help customers understand how to implement the changes, the tooling, the processes, and most importantly, the cultural changes that are needed to drive competitive advantage that lead to business outcomes.
Now you're a big fan of Jim Kim's work that I know very well. You're a big fanboy. Tell a bit more about that.
Yes, fanboy indeed. When it comes to DevOps, many organizations are unclear about what this actually means. Is it a product? Is it a SKU? Is it a process or a cultural change? All of the above. What Gene Kim did in his 2013 book, The Phoenix Project, is he identified the 3 ways, the founding principles of DevOps, the systems thinking and flow of work, amplifying feedback loops, and the culture of continuous learning and experimentation. And you can use these principles to build up your own DevOps practices in your organization. Even when we talk about all the different flavors of DevOps, things like DevSecOps, GitOps, NoOps, the 3 principles are still applicable today. Now, the big buzzword I'm hearing is digital transformation. It seems to be everywhere these days. And I see DevOps as a fundamental part about making any digital transformation initiative or digital disruption a success in the long term.
Well, that leads us to the Jim Kim's new book, The Unicorn Project, which was released at the end of 2019. I started reading the book. Can you share anything exciting about this book for the audience here?
I wondered where my copy of the book went. You must have taken it off my desk before lockdown, Wai Leong. Well, the Unicorn Project, it's a retelling of the Phoenix Project, but it's from the developer persona's point of view, as opposed to the ops-centric view of the first book. In the Unicorn Project, we had the 3 ways, whereas in the Phoenix Project, we had the 3 ways, whereas in the Unicorn Project, Gene Kim identifies the 5 ideals that developers should strive towards to survive and thrive in the age of digital disruption. The 5 ideals at a high level are locality and simplicity, which addresses the architecture of systems, allowing teams to make code changes without impacting other systems. The second ideal is focus, flow, and joy. Developers are able to focus on code instead of all the distractions around them. The ideal number 3 is the improvement of daily work, which supports the second ideal through the right tooling and architecture, and in part by paying down technical debt. The 4th one, psychological safety, which studies have shown is critical to making high-performing teams. And the 5th and final ideal is about customer focus, identifying the competitive advantages that customers are willing to pay for.
Given that the majority of us are working from home, as I like to say it, #CFH, coding from home, how can these ideas influence developer productivity for us?
I think there's value in each of the 5 ideals under the current circumstances, but it really depends on what industry you are in and what strategy your organization is taking until things return to a new normal. For instance, verticals that are seeing increased demand need to react and scale. Telco, communications, healthcare, education, they're seeing unprecedented demand. So these companies might focus on the first principle, the locality and simplicity, which will give them the business agility they need and the ability to release new changes into production quickly. They might need to quickly spin up new infrastructure to handle the increased demand. Or in the case of an online learning platform, they might want to add new features. For example, adding the ability for parents to come into the platform and review the curriculum with their children. Whereas other industries that are impacted, they might be focused on maintaining, looking for cost efficiencies, maybe the energy sector or traditional retail will fall into this category. In the case of retail, they'd be well suited to focus on the fifth ideal, which is customer focus. For instance, they can target customers which have recently purchased items from them and look to upsell and cross-sell additional items to drive more revenue, or even they could focus on product promotions to help their customers ride out the lockdown period.
That's a good one. The fourth ideal, psychological safety, comes up very often, especially when we talk about culture change in our team, development team, in the whole business team itself. Why is this so important from your perspective?
First, it's important to define psychological safety. A simple definition is the belief that you won't be punished for making mistakes. In the context of teams, it's around being able to speak up and express your opinion without being embarrassed in front of your peers. Google did a famous study called Aristotle around 2015, where they did an internal survey with the objective of trying to understand what makes a high-performing team. And to their surprise, it wasn't having smart people on the team, which is the most important thing, but having that psychological safety was the number one factor in determining the team's success. The third wave from the Phoenix Project talks about the culture of continuous learning and experimentation. And foundational to this is the psychological safety, creating the environment where, by extension, you have a blameless culture, you've got trust and transparency. So people will take calculated risks, because it's these calculated risks is where innovation thrives and drives competitive advantage. And of course, psychological safety is the fourth ideal in the Unicorn Project. Examples from the book are when something goes wrong with the project, someone is fired as repercussions there. And this absolutely kills the morale and motivation of teams. So for those listening at home, do not do this, okay? Instead, focus on a culture where team members are encouraged to share their ideas and ask questions, no matter how trivial they may seem.
I think for a lot of organizations, for a lot of our customers, a lot of innovation projects has been cancelled or put on hold indefinitely due to the pandemic. From the perspective of the five ideals, what can be done to ensure developer remains productive in such a challenging situation?
Remaining productive, I think the third ideal comes to mind there, Wai Leong, the improvement of daily work, where you look for ways to increase the developer productivity. Besides the architecture and tooling, what comes up a lot is the idea of paying down technical debt. A quick definition of technical debt, it's really about the technical trade-offs, the coding or design choices we make in order to have something right now, because time to market's the most important thing, or to build things right. And there's always a trade-off between the two. It might be the right decision at the time, but eventually you're going to have to pay back that debt. I like to define a high level of technical debt as I don't want to touch it. I'm scared to touch it because I might break it. Tech debt is a lot like finance, a loan or paying your taxes. Eventually, if you don't keep up with the payments, you'll get in big trouble there. So you need to continually pay down technical debt. Otherwise, your products will suffer in terms of the deployment frequency and the quality of your releases there. A lot of organizations create specific projects to address technical debt and to re-architect systems. A recent example is Facebook themselves. They had Project Lightspeed, where they rebuilt the Messenger app on iOS to take advantage of all the new features over the 10-year life cycle and re-platform it to be scalable for the next 10 years. So now is a great time to start paying back your taxes, paying down the technical debt, because when things return to normal, you'll have much greater business agility when it comes to releasing your products.
We have touched upon all the four of the ideals so far, but we have not covered focus, flow, and joy. Tell the audience why you think this is important.
The second ideal, focus, flow, and joy. And really, this is why developers get out of bed in the morning. They get satisfaction in solving problems in creative ways and seeing their creations adding value in the lives of the end users. Focus, flow, and joy, it's basically when you get lost in your work, you're in the zone where you start coding and you lose track of time. An example from the Unicorn Project is the main character, Maxine. At work, she spends way too much of her time chasing down documentation, getting access to environments, logging support tickets for permission, which inevitably get denied. Not fun at all, okay? What Maxine enjoys is seeing and helping her team members push code into production as well as mentoring students as a side project there. So another way to look at it is shaving the yak. Now, you may not be familiar with this term, but in Western software engineering, what it means is all the tasks that you need to do first, such as set up your laptop, get permissions, access to the system, integrations, hardware management, environment management, data management, etc., etc. All those tasks you need to do first before you can even start to code. That's called shaving the yak.
Thanks, Paul, for the great insight on the 5 ideals. For our audience, I hope you have been paying attention to what Paul has talked about, because I'll be giving away the Unicorn Project book for one very, very lucky participant.
Wow.
All you have to do is really to provide an answer in the comment section for the following questions. Right? When it comes to culture change needed for the development team to perform, which of the 5 ideals is this related to? Put the answer in the comment section and we will pick a lucky winner at the end of after the session itself. Okay, so I hope you have been paying attention. So this is something that Paul has covered 3 minutes ago.
Questions ago.
Yep.
Indeed.
Okay, let's see. Nope. Okay, I think let's see whether it's. I have not seen any. Let me see. We are looking through the. Nobody has an answer there. Oh, there's some answer coming in. Okay, so maybe for the people who has not caught my questions, just quickly repeat the questions. The question is, when it comes to culture change needed for the development team to perform, which of the 5 ideals is this related to? So put the answer in the comment section and we'll pick a lucky winner after the copy session. You will get a Unicorn Project book from us.
Giveaway. I think the giveaway is change the culture. That's probably the key word there.
Okay, I think it's time to go to the poll. I think, let's see, are we ready for the poll? So for today's poll, we will have 2 questions, right? The first questions that it has is, which one of the 5 ideas are you going to improve upon, right? For the audience out here, there are 5 ideas. Which one of the 5 ideas you want to improve upon, right? The first option is locality and simplicity. The second option is focus, flow, and joy. The third one is improvement of daily work. And the last one is customer focus. So you will see buttons appearing on your screen. So select an option. Which one do you think you want to improve upon?
I noticed you only covered 4 there, Wai Long. It must be because we're only allowed 4 options in the choices. So I'll do a quick recap of those. Locality and simplicity, that's the first ideal. It addresses the architecture of systems. It allows you to make changes to production without impacting other teams or dependent systems. Focus, flow, and joy is the second ideal. It's about enabling developers to focus on their work and avoid all the distractions around them. The third ideal is improvement of daily work. So it supports the second ideal, the tooling and processes, but there's a big part of it around paying down technical debt. The fourth one is not one of the options, but the fifth one is the customer focus, identifying the competitive advantages that customers are willing to pay for.
Okay, so for people who want to join the poll, make sure that you actually select one of the options on the screen. You should have 4 options appearing on the screen.
I recommend choosing the correct option.
Are we seeing any poll results so far? Let's just. So I think, let's see. Okay, I think the poll is running a bit slow today. I guess it got to do with the internet.
They must be on StarHub as well.
I'm glad I actually connected through the wire and it seems like things are much better. I think that's also important, right? Connectivity is important. Oh, we got a poll in. Fantastic. I think a lot of people actually chose locality and simplicity. Paul, do you want to talk a bit about locality and simplicity? Why they would choose that in the first place?
We're obviously looking at different polls, Wai Long, because I'm reading it as focus, flow, and joy had 33%. Is that right on the recount?
It's actually 80% chose locality and simplicity. Actually, that's quite a
Okay, I'm
majority
looking at
of
the
it.
wrong poll. My bad there. Locality and simplicity. I really can understand this one because there's a lot of frustrations when it comes to releasing software. You know, as we say in the transformation team, production or it didn't happen. If you can't simply push to production or you're relying on other teams, you need lots of change requests to make things happen. It's very frustrating. So I can see why the people at home would want to focus on this one first.
Mhm. Okay, good, good. I think now is the time for the Q&A session itself. Let me see the maybe as a way to kick off the Q&A. I'd like to ask you one question, Paul, for the audience itself.
Mhm.
Can you give example of how you have seen customer paying down technical debts, right? Yeah, since you engage a lot with customers.
Yeah, so I get, I'm lucky in my role. I used to get to visit customers all around the Asia Pacific region. And typically, the last 12 months, I've been talking a lot of technical debt and how organizations are paying it down. I've heard some good ideas and I've heard some bad ideas, or ones that I think are less effective. One organization met with, they had 5 product teams, of which one of the teams, 20% of the organization, the development organization, was just focused on paying down technical debt. I joke that's where all the graduates go. But in reality, it's not good because it will lead to burnout and you're not sharing the domain knowledge across teams. Whereas better practices I've heard of is that you have a budget for technical debt and a budget in terms of time. So maybe one day a week or one morning a week, all of your development teams, they focus just on paying down technical debt. There's a dedicated time in the timesheets to focus on that, which will pay dividends in the long run.
Okay, I think that is good. A good insight
Mm.
on what customers are doing. We have another question from the audience actually. A lot of organizations are not yet into DevOps practices here since they are afraid of pushing defects in production too quickly. What are your recommendations on minimizing this risk in incorporating DevOps in development?
That's a very good question, and there's no short answer for that one. So I'll talk to a couple of points there. So
Mm,
absolutely, a lot of organizations, they want zero downtime deployment, or they don't want to risk breaking production because everyone will get mad on social media, and it's very harmful to the brand of the company. So really, there are some strategies you can use, some techniques you can use to help improve the overall quality. But
mm,
one thing that studies show is, so for instance, DORA, the DevOps Research and Assessment Group, which is headed by Gene Kim, they actually show that the faster you go in terms of releasing, the release velocity, the deployment frequency, the lead time, the faster you go, the more stable the system becomes, which sounds counterintuitive at first because, Facebook said move fast and break things, whereas in the enterprise, you have to try and move fast and you don't want to break things. But the
yep.
reality shows that the techniques and tooling you use to move fast, so automated deployments, cloud native architectures, containers, DevOps processes, and feedback loops, those techniques can be applied to not only deploying fast, but also fixing production. Because when you move to a DevOps mindset, you don't actually fix production, you roll back to a different version, to a previous release, which is working. So things like canary deployments, blue-green environments, A/B testing to some extent, feature toggles. All of these techniques can be used to not only push to production faster, but reduce the risk of failure. So there's no one quick answer, but definitely look at some of those topics and how you can implement them in your organization to reduce the risk of deployments and defects.
Yep. There's another question from the audience. I think this is an interesting one. More and more organizations and businesses are starting to move into DevOps. So, what does Red Hat have in the pipeline that can help the DevOps community itself?
Well, this is where I make a joke, Wai Leong, where I say Red Hat is working on a DevOps SKU. So you can buy one DevOps, please, and then everything will be sorted. But unfortunately, we can't sell you that, okay? But there are a lot of things that we have at Red Hat that can help you improve your software delivery. So for instance, if you go to openpracticelibrary.com, that is a collection of all the agile activities that we run at Red Hat when we're on a project with our customers. So you can learn from the techniques and tooling that we use as well. We have various platforms which are important. Platforms are like guardrails for developers to
Mm-hmm.
do their coding and push to production. fast, but also in a safe manner. So have a look at OpenShift, which is our container orchestration platform there, which allows you to have a hybrid cloud infrastructure as well. In addition to that, one initiative that I'm working on is called the Transformation Radar. One thing I notice when I talk to customers about DevOps is they've never taken the time to actually measure and baseline their performance. So what I've done with the APAC transformation team is created a tool that will assess where you are in terms of your software delivery performance and give you a strategic direction in terms of architecture, product, developers, and operations. So do drop us an email if you want to get assessed on our transformation radar. It's a 30-minute exercise, which we do free of charge.
Sure. Paul, I think your email is not here, but I would suggest that the audience who are interested in that, do drop us a message on Facebook itself. We'll get back to you on that. Right. We have a question from Edwin, Mohammed Edwin. How to validate whether a culture change will give impact to a company's delivery quality? How do you measure that?
This is a hard one, Wai Long, because there is no standard measurement for culture, right? When you talk about distance, you've got meters and kilometers. It's an ISO standard.
Yep.
There is no way to measure cultural improvements. There are some leading indicators. You can look at churn rate in terms of your development staff. You can look at the satisfaction surveys of your organization to build up the culture. But really, I see one of the determining factors of culture is how much extra effort are team members willing to put in for the success of the team there.
I see. Oh, that's a good answer. I like the next question actually from Clement. We asked the question, now they're asking us back, right? Which of the 5 ideals do you think developers should focus on first and why?
That's a good question because, when the 5 ideals were defined by Gene Kim, he didn't specify any order. So you can do them out of order. They don't build up on each other and so forth. But as shown from the poll, I think, the jury is out today, or the jury is in agreement that we should focus on simplicity and locality. And I think it is important, particularly under today's circumstances of working from home, because we need to push updates from production. We're in distributed teams working in different environments on laptops. We don't have the access to the normal systems we need. So we need a simple way to push to production and make those updates. So focusing on the architectural changes will reap benefits in the long term.
Okay, Paul, that's all the time we have for today. My coffee is getting cold, so we are done. I'd like to have one last question for you before we sign off. Do you get a commission on Gene Kim for talking about his book so much?
I wish, Wai Leong. I'm not affiliated with Gene Kim in any way, but as you said, I'm a fanboy. I really like the way he breaks down the principles and ideas, and then I take them and align them to how Red Hat's products and solutions can help our customers succeed in the age of digital transformation. Thank you very much for having me.
No, you're welcome. For all the audience out there, stay tuned and join us next week's session to really understand why legacy integration products and practices are not suitable for integrating the new breed of in the new breed of digital world. Right? We will have a session on next Wednesday, 24th of June, 2 p.m. Singapore time. Do help us to provide feedback with feedback form. You'll see a QR code at the bottom of it so that we can improve on the next coffee sessions, right? Don't worry about the coffee voucher. We'll definitely send out a coffee voucher and one lucky winner for the Unicorn Project book. Thank you and see you next week. Bye.